fact, I'm coming to Blair on Friday for a track meet, middle school,
What time?
at 4 o'clock on Friday.
Really? Did you give up gardening this year?
No. I didn't mention that.
You got
Plus
a
the-
big garden too.
Plus the 200 pounds of potatoes I planted this past weekend, 800-foot rows of peas, 400-foot rows of kohlrabi and beets.
No kidding. No, wow.
Family tradition.
That's awesome. What do you do to break the boredom? He sleeps. Hey, Paul.
Morning, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Do you have an amended agenda? Is that what you're bringing up?
No, I brought those. Charlie, you can sit right here. Kurt, I brought those pictures you sent.
Perfect.
You want them handed out?
Yeah, if we can hand them out. Cancel the Amber.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
Black and white.
Is Rick coming? I don't have that agreement.
Oh, you don't?
I don't have it. I never got it. This is the only thing I ever got. So,
We could have him,
is he coming in remote? I don't know.
I don't know.
is that about the street closure? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not seen that. Is it a yes?
What's that?
For
On the
my
agreement?
request? Huh?
On the agreement, or yesterday request for Monday night the 17th? Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know now. You know, right now. 5 o'clock, you said?
5 o'clock, yep. Got almost all my speakers taken care of.
Well, it looks like we have everyone here, and it's 9 o'clock. So I will call this May meeting of the Trempealeau County Property Committee meeting to order at 9 o'clock. I'll verify that certification of open meeting law requirements have been met. When we got our agenda for the meeting, we had a copy of the minutes of our previous meeting.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Seisha,
Second.
second by Ziegler to approve. Does anybody have any corrections or changes or comments on the notes? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of our previous meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, since we are going live, right now we will give, or let people have time for a public comment period. The number you can call is 715-538-1770. So I'll give you a few minutes to call if you would like. Two minutes seems like forever, yes.
And you're gonna speak, right? You got that email from me
Speaking where?
at the groundbreaking ceremony
When did you send it?
yesterday?
Just nod your head and say yes.
Yeah, I guess I didn't check my county email, but, so I am
Yeah.
speaking?
Huh?
I am speaking?
1 to 2 minutes,
Oh.
not over 2.
Oh.
What was her name? Cheryl? Sherry?
Shelley. Yeah.
Shelley. Okay, yeah.
Let's see, that is a week from Monday,
Yes.
at 5 o'clock.
Yes. Before the county board meeting.
Any idea how long that'll last?
Groundbreaking?
She said no
No
longer
more.
than half an hour.
Yeah, it won't take long.
Okay.
It's the
I'm sure there'll be pictures and all of that kinds of stuff.
It should be out in today's paper.
I have to say something free on there.
If I want to put it in next week's paper for a reminder, I have to pay for an ad.
Oh, okay. This week it's news,
This week it was a press release, yes.
and next week it's advertising. Just so we don't have protesters, that's all.
Shouldn't. We'll keep the fence up, right?
Are they done now, or
Done.
with the building?
Well, John had a question about that kind of an old staircase, but I think it's because they gotta get fill in there to fill the old basement, right?
Yeah, that's not part, I'll cover that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I've given people a couple minutes. If you do want to call and speak to us, please still do so, even though we're closing the public comment period. Okay, our next item on the agenda is our Samuels Group Venture Building Project updates.
Morning, everyone. Good to see you all here today. I suppose you need me to push this, huh?
Yeah, that would help.
Good to see you all here today. I'm going to give you a brief update, and then I guess the main reason for the agenda is approval of the Park Street closure agreement, and I understand that we don't have the language for you, so I need to get that for you before the end of the meeting here. I've sent an email over to Rick Niemeyer, so hopefully he can get that to you, because that's really that's kind of the biggest thing I'm here for today, so we've got to get that accomplished. But before we get started, I want to introduce my project team over here. I know you guys have been dealing with me and my face for lots of months, and now because we're going to be entering into construction, I want to introduce you to my team. Tad Gardner in the corner with the fluorescent green on. He's your on-site superintendent. He'll be here every day when construction is underway. He'll be overseeing the coordination, the scheduling, safety components, and if you ever needed to go onto the site or have any questions related to the project while you're here, just go to our job trailer and check in with Tad. We would
Repeat the name, please.
Tad Gardner.
Nice to meet you.
Tad, like the guy that, you know, and his last name like he's gardening. That's Gardner. Yeah. Yeah. Kurt Schleicher is next to him. He's our project manager. He's the guy who takes care of contracts and pay applications and all of the oversight of the paperwork of the project. So Tad's the bricks and mortars guy, and Kurt is the paperwork guy. Kurt Schleicher, he's been with us for a lot of years and has a lot of correctional work under his belt, so he'll bring a wealth of knowledge to the project. And then next to Kurt is Jaya Charbonneau. She is our project administrator. She's the one that assists Kurt in regards to the administration and documents. Kurt and Jaya will be coming out to the project periodically. They won't be here full time, but Tad will be here full time on site. So I wanted to have you introduce them to you today so that you could get to meet them, and maybe after the meeting. No, I won't. No. I'll let her pronounce. I'll let her spell her last name for you.
I at least spelled it right. But her last name is. Yeah.
Just how you thought it was spelled, right?
Okay, now you said Tad was going to be here every day. Is that from like 7 to 4, or?
He typically rolls in here before 7 o'clock, and then he'll be out of here, between 3:30 and 4.
Okay.
So, all right, so now that we've got the introductions kind of out of the way, I kind of want to give you a brief update of where things are and where we're headed. As you can see, the demolition portion of the school is complete. I know there was a question about the big hole that's still remaining out there. That's actually on purpose because we don't want two separate contractors dealing with the compaction of the soil for settlement issues. So the first phase was the demolition, was just to remove building structure and get rid of all of the components that are tied to that and leave the hole. The contractor that comes in to bid the next phase will actually take care of balancing that site. So if it's fill that they can use from the excavation from the building to fill and compact it, there's a compaction standard that they need to meet, and it's best for us to keep that under the contract of the contractors that there, so we don't have finger pointing going on. So that's the reason you have a hole there. But I was telling my team when I got here, there's actually going to be a hole similar to that in the middle of the parking lot as your retention pond. So the requirement is that you have to have a settlement retention pond, and there's actually, it's not going to be that deep, but it's going to be probably further to the east than what you're seeing there. So it's not too far removed from what you're going to see in the future, but it definitely makes the site look different. When I got here today is the first time I've been here since it's been taken down, and I do have to see that Post D did an exceptional job in regards to timing, in regards to safety, in regards to communication with my team, and then just clean up to be able to come in and clean up the site like they did and leave it in the condition that they did. They did a great job. So it was a great first step to the project. Any questions on that demo phase?
What is the retention pond going to be, and is that going to be permanent?
Yes. Yes, there won't be, the pond that we're designing will not have standing water in it. It's going to be one of those areas where when the rainwater comes in, it'll actually filter through there, and what it does is it takes the soil, all of the sediment that's in the water, and it'll settle into that pond before it goes into the balance of the storm system. So there'll be plantings that are there. We're actually looking to make it something that's attractive in the middle of the parking lot there. There was some other options when we were designing. There's some underground containment systems, but they're really cost prohibitive, and because we had the real estate to be able to do it there and the way that the traffic was able to flow around it, it made a lot of sense to do that. So
Kurt, is that this sort of eye, is that the retention pond?
it'll be inside of the eye. Yep.
Inside the eye?
Yep, inside the eye. Yep. Okay, any other questions on the demo? Okay, so from an ODIP update, the board did approve that at your last county board meeting. For the following day, we did have a meeting with the ODIP team and the state. We were approved to move forward with the ODIP program. So what that means is we're going to incorporate the ODIP language and all of the specifications in the front end spec. So when contractors bid the project, they understand that they're going to be participating in an owner direct insurance program. And that's going to entail not only our team, but Venture and how they write the spec, and then Vance's team, as well as the DWD for the ODIP. So that did get approved last week or the week before, and it's moving forward in regards to our the way that we're defining the specs. Next item is I wanted to give you all a budget update. So we got to the end of design development, and we put the project plans out to contractors to be able to price where we are budget-wise, and this is Justice Center related. And we had contingencies that were built into our budget that have been getting gobbled up because of our increase in material prices. So the strategy moving forward to make sure that we maintain and stay within the budget is that we're bidding it in multiple bid packages, but also bid categories. That means that you're not going to have one large lump sum number. You're going to have a multitude of many, many bids. And we anticipate that bid pack 1, that is going to be footings, foundations, utilities, and earthwork, the feedback that we've got on that is that's going to be within budget. The areas that are starting to creep into contingency dollars are areas that are running into material increases. So the market that you have out there right now is contractors are still very hungry, need the work. I've had calls from multiple contractors that are very interested in your project. So we do expect an active bid day, but there is also materials increases that are outside of the contractor's control. And some of the things that I've been getting back from our vendors on a budget update is that they actually can't give us a firm budget number on some materials because they change daily. Okay, so some of the strategies that we may have is we may come to you with a bid category, and we may say we're going to hold on this bid category. We may not award it, and we may rebid it, after we see material prices start to drop down, because we have a 24-month construction period, and because the way we're delivering it, it gives us some flexibility to be able to do that. So I just want to make you aware of that situation, that is going to impact how we go about awarding when we do get the bids in. To give you a timing on those, on the bid package, we do anticipate having the first bid package out on the street the week of May 17th. We're working with Venture to finalize their construction documents, and one of the things that's going to impact that 17th date is the approval of Park Street closure, because there's utilities that are associated with that. So we do need an approval from the committee here today for that Park Street closure agreement, and then the city has proposed that if you do approve it today, that they will have it on their city council meeting next week. So the reason that that's tied into our bid pack 1 is that we have to have that approved before we can finalize the design on that utility infrastructure from an engineering perspective. But when we put it out on the street for the 17th, we typically give a 2 to 3 week bidding period. So that means that we would have bids coming in towards the end of May, and then we would be bringing them before you in June for approval so that we could get started on bid pack number 1. So any questions on any of that update? Jeff?
I have a comment here, if I may. My understanding is that our engineers and legal people have given us a okay contract business, and we plan on dealing with it on Tuesday night.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. So I'll get into that Park Street closure component here, but Jeff is exactly right. We have involved their legal counsel, has worked closely with Rick and have agreed on the document that I know you don't have in front of you, and I'm hopeful that I get that from Rick here. But also the document that you have that is a drawing. That the scope of that agreement basically relates that there will be no utilities running under the footprint of the building. We're relocating them out into the adjacent streets. If you want to look at the drawing that Paul had handed out to you, one of the elements that we have over here is that, got it upside down, is that we do have a storm sewer route that goes around the east side of the campus. And the reason that it went on the east side of the campus is because the grade, there was a concern about grade to be able to have proper flow. So it's been coordination between SEH, which is the engineer firm that the city is using for the rework of Hobson Street, as well as Harwood Engineering, that is the engineering firm from the Venture side, to be able to work with the utility relocation. So you can see that that utility relocation is actually going to take place in the green space east of the campus, but it does that in order so that we have the proper flow associated with that. The rest of them, the water and the sanitary, are going to be reworked down Hobson Street. So the phased approach and what we're proposing is that when these utilities get rerouted from Park Street over to Main Street in that area of Hobson, that we're going to take that part of our project, that we're actually going to relocate those utilities, and then we will repave that portion of the street. And then the city will pick up with their street project and move from Park Street west up Hobson. So the cost change or the cost sharing that would be in there would be related to the water main, because the water main from the city's perspective is going to be upgraded as part of their project. We're going to do it in our project, but then isolate what that cost is and give that to the city, because that's scope that we're just doing so that we don't have to tear the street up again. So, all right. Yes.
When you're going to do this water main and sewer main on Hobson, are they going to do that before the building construction, or?
Yes. It's going to be we can't build on Park Street until we do it. So you may see us actually start building construction on the block west of it, but then the utility rework will be happening kind of in an adjacent perspective. But we will never build on top of that existing utilities that are in Park Street.
I'm just looking at possibility of people getting in and out of the building from the back for work.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know.
we will definitely coordinate what that looks like on the east side of the campus so that we don't, if we have to shut down that front entrance,
Yeah.
what does that look like? You know, we may be able to get that so that people can come park here and then come across the lawn, you know, or around the side of the building to get to that main entrance. But Tad will work on getting that coordinated with Jeremy and with the staff. So,
Okay.
yep.
Kurt, I have a question about the council. That proposed public storm sewer route on the north side of the footprint, that'd be the south side of Dewey Street, does anything actually feed into that from the present building or the new building? I'm just wondering why we're going all the way around the block.
The reason we're going around the block, Tim, is because we were looking at connecting it, because this storm runs to this point, and right now it's coming in along this side, so we're rerouting this. And the elevation was an issue of whether they came around this side. So we're making this connection to get to this. It's a flow perspective, so that we assure that we do have flow.
It's all gravity.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Tim?
Question?
Yep.
The timing of that as far as the project, what do you estimate that you'll be starting that work?
When would we start the utility work? You think June, July, probably?
I'd say middle of June.
Yeah, I think middle of June would be too early, but probably in July.
I imagine we'd want to talk to CenturyLink and TCC regarding putting some
The feed.
conduit in.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move on. I think Paul may be looking to see if he can get that agreement from Rick.
Yeah, I went up to his office because you sent him an email, but he may not have, our emails aren't.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
his assistant was trying to get him on the phone to
Perfect.
get him done.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Next thing that I wanted to share with the group here is I did reach out to the church that's to the south of the campus here and just put feelers out to ask if during the duration of construction, if it would be acceptable that during hours when they don't have their services going on, if county staff could use their parking lot. And the gentleman that I spoke to, I should have wrote his name down. I've got it in my office. He was the chair of their Building and Grounds Committee. He was actually going to take it to their committee this month and then give us feedback of whether that would be acceptable or not. I did share with, I don't know if I shared it with the board or this committee. We've done that on other projects where members of that congregation had suggested. So I just reached out to him.
Was that Steve Lamberson?
What's that?
Steve Lamberson?
Yes, that's the name. Yep, that's who I spoke to. And he was going to talk to the committee and get back to us. But that may free up or give some help just from staff being able to park there rather when we start closing down Park Street. So that is in the works. Don't have any feedback or approval back yet, but I have started that discussion.
Do you think you'll have to put a sign in Quick Trip parking lot that some people don't park there?
We probably will.
Because you know somebody will.
Yeah, probably, yeah, especially in that back spot, the
Yes.
back 10 spots or whatever they have there. The next thing that I did want to give you an update on is this renovation portion of the project. We brought you a floor plan last time we met. Venture is working on identifying that county boardroom would actually be that Decora room that we talked about that's just outside of the court suite. They're still working on some components to be able to bring to you for approval. Like they met with the judge and the team so that we're having a dual purpose there, but it will come to you for approval before we actually finalize those documents. But for the renovation portion of the project, we did put that out from a budget perspective to contractors as well. And remember, we were earmarking to that come in between $2.5 to $3 million. The scope that we currently have drawn right now is right around $4 million. So we have some time to be able to make some adjustments to that scope. But there is also an approach to that doesn't necessarily need to be bid immediately, okay? Because we're not going to be doing that work for 2 years. So So there's a strategy associated with that we could potentially see what happens from the material prices as well, because some of that is impacted by materials, and wait to bid that. So it won't be part of the bid pack 1, it won't be part of the bid pack 2, but we can decide when we want to put that out for bid. But we're going to have to look at how do we revise that scope to be able to pull that back, and where do those adjustments need to be made. So we're going to be working with Venture on some options associated with that. The other element is that after we bid bid pack 1 or bid pack 2, we'll have a better handle on where the budget is, and it may free up dollars for that, or we may see that if it went up, it may have to adjust some of that scope down again, because we've kind of got a locked-in cost that's associated with that. But I just want you to be aware that of where that is. The way that we approached that was moving departments where they needed to be, get a feel for what is the best case scenario, and then put a budget to it. So it's a little higher than where we wanted to get to, but there's ways that we can navigate through that. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on where that is. Again, it's not a hard bid at this point, but it's a budget, and those budgets are fluctuating with what we're getting in the market right now. So, questions on that?
I'm asking you to peer into your crystal ball, and if building prices are going up now, if that's the problem now, do you really anticipate that they will fall in the future?
Here's what I've been told. So we're dealing with this in multiple markets on multiple projects, and what we're being told for material prices is that they're projecting, and again, these are all projections, so when you call crystal ball, that's exactly what we are, and it's probably a foggy one at best. But what they're projecting and anticipating is that these material prices will continue to creep up until potentially the end of third quarter 2021. Then they're anticipating that they are going to start to decline again towards the end of the year. Now, I've talked to multiple vendors in multiple areas of construction, and not all of the materials are going up. Our concrete block is staying pretty consistent. Concrete's being consistent. Metal, anything to deal with steel has taken a jump. I think everybody knows that anything that's wood-based is crazy out of this world. So I don't want to cause a ton of panic to say that all materials are going skyrocketing, but there are some that they're projecting will peak out third quarter and will start to come back down. Again, the projections say that, the end of the year or beginning of next year, those numbers aren't going to be below what they were in 2021. So you're right, Tim. They're not going to go below where they were at the beginning of the year, but they're not going to stay where they currently are, is what the projection is. So that's the part of the animal of what portion do we potentially rebid? When do we rebid it if we need to? We may not have to rebid it. We may not have an issue. But I just want to set the table so you know that we have a strategy moving into it. So, yeah. I was like that big bass drum at the end of that end of the band.
Very dramatic.
And then the last thing before we get into and I know Park Street closures later on the agenda is the groundbreaking. I think Paul has contacted those that are going to be potentially speaking. We do have the groundbreaking set for Monday, May 17th at 5 p.m. We've got a good pile of dirt out there for people to stick shovels in, and we'll have the hard hats assembled for everybody there. We'll keep it brief, a half an hour to 45 minutes. It'll probably be the most time that it'll take, but it's really what you as the county want that to look like, and I think that Shelley from my group has been in contact with Paul. I think for the most part we're pretty close to having it set up, but the groundbreaking would be kind of a picture session for you guys to be able to kick off the project. So,
When John heard that you were providing the refreshments, he said we can't have beer before county board meeting.
It'd be a crazy county board, right?
We could make an exception.
I did get a hold of Rick, and he's trying to get in, I think this is him.
Okay.
Now I gotta figure out how to do this. Rick? Hang on, let me see if I know how to do this. I think I put you on speaker. Hold on, I gotta find speaker. I don't see a speaker button.
you got help coming.
I'll give it to somebody who knows what the hell they're doing.
Okay, thank you, because
I'm gonna stick up for you, Paul. I think you know what you're doing.
He thinks it is. Rick, are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Let's put this down. There you go. Okay, you're good.
Great.
High-tech,
I
high-tech
have
solution
for me
there. Like that.
Copies
Email
of
wasn't-
the agreement, bringing it downstairs right now.
Yes, we're aware of that.
Oh, he wasn't. He's at home.
Rick, did you say that Brittany's bringing a copy of the agreement down now?
Yep, she's bringing down about 8 copies with the utility attachment for everybody to take a look at.
Perfect. Okay, thanks. Sorry about the confusion there. I thought we had that here on the agenda. So I guess it's on the agenda, just the attachment. So thanks for bringing that in.
Yeah, no problem. Certainly could have emailed it, but I'm having trouble with our emails here, so.
So that's really my update, other than the Park Street discussion, and it sounds like we've got the document on its way downstairs. So are there questions from anybody on how things are moving along, or concerns, or any feedback that you've been getting? No? Not quiet? Tim?
This is the property meeting, right? So
Yep.
Yes.
I have to ask the chair for permission to speak at this
Go ahead.
part. Thank you. I'm still looking for a round budget number.
For your IT? Yep. Yeah, we're working on the details as we're getting feedback from subs, so I will provide that to you.
What kind of budget, Tim, could you repeat that?
The IT budget for the
Was
data
it a
center.
rounded number?
I need a round number, so I have some sort of guesstimate.
Tim's asked me for quite some time on a budget for the data center. So part of the project is a data center, I don't want to call it a relocation, but it's a new data center in the addition. There's different ways that data center can be combined and configured. So we're working on options with the engineers. So the engineers are putting together kind of the rack system and everything that we've talked about at the last meeting, and then we'll put a number on that for you.
Well, there's the racking and power components that they're putting together, but the other elements tend to be a little more pricey and have a lot of conditions attached to what their functionality is going to be.
Yep.
So that's the number I'm most anticipating.
Yep.
We've scoped out the projects as we see it, but now we're just waiting for that number before we begin looking at possible solutions.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anything else for Kurt for now? Okay, hearing none. Tim, you want to give us a IT update?
Okay, Office 365 access has been a problem for users throughout the county, starting last night as the second shift or third shift came on for the jail. My staff's been working on it since 9 o'clock or 7:30 last night. It was some changes we made to the security structure between us and Office 365 as part of the project to secure our networks further and add multi-factor authentication. Everything tested and worked great yesterday without any interruption, and then as soon as people logged off and tried to come back in, now we're starting to see problems. So that's so IT. It's just it's the kind of thing that is fun on a bun. So we would send out an email to everybody to let them know that email's not working, but that's not going so good. So they are working on it. I don't have an ETA for you at this time, but it's one of the headaches of moving forward with the security project. We've had a noted increase in malware. One of our own board members, his personal email got hacked and his entire contact list. So we've got staff at the county getting all kinds of emails from John Ossen saying, you need to check into this. So it's really...
It's always your fault.
Well, they've got his contact list, and they're pretty aggressive, so they're trying to get people to do the card scam. So as a warning to board members, if you get an email from John Ossen, make sure you check the source.
I'm deleting immediately. Yeah. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, don't click on the link, because then they think they got a fish on the line, and they're basically going to send you an email saying that, hey, it's John, I need this this iTunes gift card for 20 people. Go buy them right now.
Do me a favor.
I think it's supposed to send $400 gift cards to the niece. I don't have them.
You know, John does stuff like this all the time, so it's really very credible. So.
Well, it's not just John, though. We are seeing a big uptick in that, and so the phishing and malware training we've done for staff has been money well spent, because so far, most county staff are paying close attention, and they're sending spooky-looking stuff to us all the time. So we're going to continue with that and do a new fishing training soon. We just waited because we didn't want to get people riled up during COVID. We had bigger fish to fry, but now that that's over, we're going to go back to the education program we initiated the year before. We are looking at some solutions for going paperless for the board. We have a session scheduled with a vendor this afternoon. My staff is also looking at the possibility of leveraging existing SharePoint or Teams methodologies, but we're working out the kinks on that. We want to make sure that whatever we produce as far as delivering content to the board members is easy for everyone involved. We don't want to add complication. And there's got to be some accountability to it. So we'll be working with the clerk's office and all the different contributors, the people that create the minutes and the packets and the agendas and such. Will have to be a part of that. We'll have to figure out how to make it so that they can contribute materials from their subcommittees, so that we're following the same process end to end, that we're not doing it one way for property and another way for the board and another way for this. So that's a process that's been accelerated. We didn't plan on doing that right away, but the board has taken to their devices so well, we're getting pressure to move forward. So you guys surprised me. Working on a statement of work for the networking backbone project. I will probably be bringing that back to this committee next month for approval. Before I put that out, it's probably going to have to go to exec finance because it's not a budgeted item, and we'll need to get approval for that. So over the next month or two, we'll be exploring that further. I don't have any estimates as to what I expect that to be for a cost right now, but next month I'll probably be delivering that. Already mentioned the budget to Kurt. I'm still looking for electronic documents of the materials so far for the project. Are they out there? I know the sheriff wants to limit their distribution, but I was hoping that we'd have some.
Renovation of the drawings?
The renovation and the Justice Center itself.
Okay. Yeah, the renovation, I think Venture is just finishing up that decor room. I can touch base with them, get them for you.
Okay. We identified projects to work on for security and networking security and all forms of security. We had an evaluation that was paid for with a HAVA election security subgrant last year, and we've basically taken the evaluation that was provided as part of that project and identified key areas to update our security and infrastructure based on the recommendations from that evaluation. I've gotten an estimate for about 100 hours, and this committee had asked me previously, is there anything we can be doing to try and help IT keep up with what's in front of us? And this is the thing that I'm going to be pursuing. It's about 100 hours to accomplish the 6 projects. And fix existing items as well that would take the load off of my staff having to get up to speed on it. Contractors of this sort generally run about $200 an hour. So I'll be coming to Exec Finance and Property Committee again next month to pursue, again, funds I didn't budget for. But it has been asked, and this is the answer I'm finding, that in order to meet the requirements that the IT department has with the staff we have, and not adding personnel, I think this is the way to move forward, is with some consultants to help us get some stuff done. So I'm looking at a $20,000 to $30,000 range there right now, and I will bring that back as a formal resolution next month. And no ETA on the email yet. Thanks, that's all I got. Questions?
Okay, just the heads up for you, at the land use meeting yesterday, there was some talk about some changes in the structure of the land management department, and one of the things that came up is the Wisconsin room. So for all of you, that's something we may want to think about going forward. We didn't approve it or anything, but that was a suggestion, is use the Wisconsin room, which is right off of the county board chair's office there, as a possible office for Nick and Ann, yes.
Is this a discussion, or is this?
I'm just bringing it a heads up to him that the probably people are going to be coming and asking.
Because I have plenty to say about it, but I can wait till next month. And
Yeah,
then I'll have plenty more. But
I was just going to give Tim a heads up that people may be coming to you about that, and especially with Nick and them, there's probably going to be some
There's
IT work.
plotters, there's at least 8 connections that would be required for them.
machines, there's a couple $1,000s invested in where they are.
Okay,
now.
I just brought it up that did come up in the discussion yesterday, and it's on the table, so not that we've agreed to
So
it.
the chicken isn't crossing the road
The chicken
yet.
is not crossing the road yet, but he's gotten out of his
It's
nest.
just looking at the road right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Just
perhaps
an
we'll have to
update.
discuss that.
Yeah,
with
just an
someone.
update for you with that. The egg isn't even hatched yet.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the other Tim in the room. Tim, this has nothing to do with the building project. It's a request, or at least a consideration, a request that has to do with the county, the mailbox for county supervisors. Is it possible, would it be possible to put some sort of, I haven't looked at it I haven't opened it, I don't even know what it looks like. But since this was instituted a month or 6 weeks or so ago, I have been getting more emails from everybody.
Okay.
And I replied with a thank you for your comments to virtually all of them. I do wonder, though, I'm somewhat skeptical about, would it be possible to put something in there that says required field and something that asks for residence? Because I'm getting emails from people with just a name. I don't recognize the name. And I'm somewhat suspicious. In fact, I did recognize one name that came up, and I know that person lives in Onalaska.
Okay.
And I don't represent people from Onalaska. And I know this was a problem in the sand mine days where we'd be getting all kinds of emails. The committee chair at that time would be getting all kinds of emails from people in Pennsylvania and Idaho and Texas and so forth. And we supervisors are trying to read those, look at them as a sort of straw poll, an indication of public sentiment. But if these people don't live here, I'm going to ignore them.
Okay.
So is it possible, like when you're filling out your credit card, something for credit card says required field, and ask for, even if it were just not a full address, but the municipality or rural township, that's all.
Okay, there's a couple things we could do there. One, the primary thing would be to update the county website. There's an email drop-down that lists each of the county board supervisors as well as the departments in there, so that citizens can send emails directly by just clicking on that button, or to all supervisors at once. We could add some language on that page that says, if you are submitting information to the county, please include your residency location so we can properly identify. We can add some language and get, yeah, and then we can send that out to, Paul can probably coordinate that and verify the language with the board to make sure that meets your approval, and we'll add that to the website. The second item is, if you're having problems with it, we could probably set up a rule that automatically replies to people when they send you an email that says, if you haven't already provided me with your name and residency so that I can tell if you're a constituent, please send me a follow-up email with this information.
I think the first solution is the simpler and the better of the two.
Exactly.
That's all I want. Just some sort of a screening process immediately.
But it doesn't mean that you can lead them to that water, but that doesn't make them drink. They may still decide to send you an email that doesn't include any pertinent information.
But you could have something like, the required field in red asterisks, and the email simply wouldn't go through if you didn't fill it in.
We can't do that. It's not that advanced a screening. If we had a proper form submission, we could, but we don't pay for that level of interactivity with our citizens.
All right, simple solutions are the best solutions.
Exactly. We would like, we're looking at something called JOT forms for the organization, possibly using FEMA funding, which would allow us to have more elaborate forms for citizens to interact with the county and create things for different departments. And that would be one of them we would like to use, is having an actual form for submitting queries. You know, if somebody's complaining about a pothole, we could have a form for them to report that to highway. We could have a form for contacting your supervisor that would include required fields. So it's something out there. It's just we haven't had time to really get down into the weeds on it. And everything's a subscription base in software now. So instead of an upfront cost and 10 years of using it without issue, they want you to pay for it every year. So it's one of those issues. It's the same problem we're facing with whatever solution we try to make for going paperless and delivering content to you. It's not a big upfront cost, but every year they're going to charge you 10 grand to have this. So I can't use upfront funding mechanisms.
Anything you could do, I'd appreciate.
That's a good suggestion, Tim. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Tim? Okay, thank you. Jeremy?
All right, so for maintenance for this month, I can't remember if last month if it was completed or not. I brought it up, but the sidewalks on the southern portion of the building, that project had been completed. So all the old sidewalks were ripped out. The lawn in between the street and the sidewalk was removed, and the new sidewalk poured with the correct pitch so that water will actually make it to the street now. So that's all done, and that one came in well under budget from what I had requested last year on the capital projects. So I've got quite a bit of funds sitting there right now for that one. So probably next month I'll either go to exec finance or here to let you guys know that I still have more concrete work that I'd like to still get done, which is still going to be classified under the same project that it is now, but I need some tuck point repairs done on the western side of the building, right above my maintenance room there, the boiler room. I think I pointed it out to you guys before, but I got the bricks have slipped quite a bit, the mortar is squeezing out, and I got some pretty good cracks. So I know I discussed this with Kurt at one point too, that it was a possibility that when stuff happens here, maybe those repairs will be done, but I have the money as it sits now, so I'm gonna reach out and try to get some prices to make sure that it doesn't exceed what I have left, and then go forward from there once I get numbers, and then I'll bring them to the appropriate committees. Also in the past month, we've had a couple of weird things happen. So one of the new dryers that we put in the jail, just middle of last year, I've had the doors fail twice. One time it just fell off, and the last time all the glass exploded. No reason why, no one in the room either time it happened, but those have both been warranty repairs. I've had to pay a small fee for the delivery of the part and whatnot, and then, but so at least they're still under warranty. But these are the ones that I'm keeping a track on, because we're still hoping to move these machines from the existing jail to the new jail at some point when that happens, because they're new machines and we want to still be able to utilize those. X-ray machine that was purchased earlier this week, or the process was started. The POs were sent out and all the paperwork was started. We're still looking at 4 to 16 weeks on a lead time before the machine gets here. But the machine that we settled on, I worked with the Sheriff's Department, and then we worked with TSA, and then we found one that is appropriate for what we wanted to do here in the building. That still fell within the price range of what I had set up. So the new one here, it'll do everything, obviously, that the old one did, plus quite a bit more. It'll highlight anything that, on the old machine, it's a black and white picture. It would come through and it would just kind of highlight what's in a bag, and you kind of got to look through it here now. The new machine will be a colored display, and everything of different densities and materials will be displayed in a different color on the machine. Anything that's been previously identified as a weapon, a narcotic, or something that's too dense or drug paraphernalia will be highlighted in a different color and circled on the machine automatically in a different color depending on what it would be. Red for weapons, blue for drugs or drug paraphernalia. And this machine will be tied in. The software that it comes with is given to us by the company that we're buying it from, and it will be updated annually for 2 years. So what that means, anything that was detected somewhere else, a certain type of gun magazine or gun, it'll update that type of stuff in the software, so it'll have an easier time to identify it on our machines. It also comes with a training program built in that has thousands of scans that have been done at other places. So the Sheriff's Department will be able to sit down when they're training new deputies and go through a screen like you're putting bags through. And every once in a while it'll show something on there that shouldn't be there for help detecting that kind of stuff. Once I get an update, I'll keep the Sheriff's Department apprised of when the delivery date will be, but there's been from what I'm told from the 3 companies I was working for before I settled on this one, an uptick of purchasing of these units, which is why the lead time can be anywhere between 4 and 16 weeks. But the cost of this will include delivery, it will include on-site training, and it does include the disposal and removal of the existing equipment that we have here now. Before the demolition of the building across the street, we did do the memorabilia sale. I had ads running that paper. I had various people email through here. And again, like I stated to this committee before, the goal for my department was not to make money, but we did still charge for the boards to help try to offset the cost of my staff and myself being over there and just spending the county's time removing them. So all in all, we made just about over $500 that will go back into my department budget, which isn't a lot, but when you look at maintenance as a whole, I normally only spend money. I don't really ever make money. So any money that I can put back into my account is a bonus. Last month too, I brought up that we had an issue, 3 years ago we replaced both of the chillers outside, and last month I said we had a catastrophic failure with our smaller chiller. So in the past few weeks we've been able to narrow down what that issue was, and that it's a warranty issue. But basically the heat exchanger on our smaller unit, which would be where the Freon comes through and then the water comes through, the Freon obviously cooling down the water that runs through the system, they get close but they never touch. Well, it cracked and they touched, and the water got into the Freon lines, which then went into and blew out one of my compressors. And then Freon got into the water system, which ended up causing some, not major problems, but we got a lot of air in the lines technically from that. So once we narrowed it down, the exchanger was still under warranty, the compressors are still under warranty. So the fees that I have for this one right now were the fees that between myself and WHV kind of narrowing down what the problem was. But it would have been a very costly repair had I not had the warranty set up the way that I did up front. So that'll be corrected here before the summertime actually hits. Since it's a smaller unit, it's not that big of a deal, just because of the fact that that one we normally only run in August, maybe late part of July and through August, because it helps offset the larger chiller when we're trying to cool the water down from 115, 120 degrees down to 55 to cool the building. So and then the only other change that we really had this month for maintenance is we did work with IT to get up requests through my department, set up through a ticketing system that IT currently uses for their staff too. When I started, we had a ticket system. People would open a ticket, it would come to maintenance, we would do the work, close the tickets. That software, I believe it just expired and we didn't renew it, and then Tim set up his own program. So for the past 2 years, people would just email maintenance and then we would take care of it from there. But the ticketing system is a little bit easier. It helps me keep track of things that maybe my guys did that I wasn't aware of. So the same reports that Tim's able to give you guys on how many tickets he's able to close or how long they're open will become part of the maintenance update in the near future. Just got to give myself and you got to give the staff a little bit of time to get used to it, because for every 10 tickets that I get, I'm still getting 25 emails to go along with it, because people are still getting used to, oh, that's right, you got to email. You got to create a ticket, not just email the staff. So other than that, we had no other major catastrophes, thankfully. The only thing that for my staff that we're going to be looking at too is getting a little bit more in-depth training on hazmat cleaning. The jail has had a recent uptick of people that are not very happy to be there, and for some reason they go ahead and let that be known by doing things that my staff or the jail staff has to take care of, wearing white paper suits and rubber gloves. So we're gonna, you know, for the most part, Robbie will do we do the bloodborne pathogen trainings and stuff like that, which is pretty similar, but these are usually on a bigger scale. The new facility, at least, are things that I've requested before, was closer proximity to drains, closer proximity to hose bibs, and an area. Right now, if I were to try to wash out the holding cell with a hose, I would end up flooding 2 detectives' office underneath it. So we won't have that problem going forward, which will be nice. But that's just one thing I'll be looking at, and that should be covered if we're going to go outside of the norm of just, you know, paper schooling. I have a line item in my budget for higher education, basically, if I want to send one of my guys to something where they get a certification. So we're not, because we're so far out of the way, I did make some inquiries of like service master cleaning, stuff like that other facilities use. But because we're so far away, and it would be an on-call as needed basis, the price to clean those rooms was extraordinary. So as it sits now, my staff does it. We keep track of the materials and the time in case the jail or the district attorney needs to go after restitution for those people for the time and money spent cleaning up after them. That's all I got.
Any questions for Jeremy? Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, moving on, and our next item is that we have a request to have the Whitehall Farmers Market on the front lawn. Arlena?
Hi, I'm Arlena Schott. I am one of
Yeah, and it should turn right up. Now
Okay.
you're on.
I'm the market manager for the Farmers Garden Market here in Whitehall. I think we're on our 7th year. We right now have our market at the Johnson Hardware and Rental Grass area and the Dollar General. Our market has grown so much now that we would really like a nicer place to have it, and we thought we would approach and ask if we could. It would be the lawn on this side across from Quick Trip, where the tree area is. That's what we're asking about. To hold it and host it there every Friday from 3 to 6:30. And understanding that there's lots going on and we could think about this in the future versus obviously our market opens tomorrow as our first day. So we grew from maybe 6 vendors, and last year I think at times we had 15 to 20, and COVID had a lot to do with that as far as folks needing extra income, raising more garden, having a place that they could, you know, help the community find food in the area. Homegrown things, fresh things, canning, preserving is huge right now. So that is why our market is doing so well. So we thought if we could have a bigger area, that would be wonderful. If we could have a flatter area, more grass, right up on the sidewalk, right the tents to the sidewalk, so that the seniors had a more level area to wander through and purchase their things. So that is why I'm here today. So obviously it's to know where, you know, if that tree area is going to stay or if it's not going to stay, or what your thoughts and everybody's thoughts are on it.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Point of clarification. I'm confused about where across from Quick Trip and the tree area is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where the building used to be, right up on the, let's see, where are we here?
Which building are you talking about?
Well, that's Quick Trip over
Quick Trip.
there, but
So that would be right down here.
I thought you were talking about right here.
On the front.
Because
Agenda.
we always
Oh.
put front lawn, which is
Sure.
facing the
On
main
Highway 53.
3.
Either way, we would be happy.
That's I guess, where I.
Where you
thought
were thinking.
Well, according
Absolutely.
this document, there's not going to be a lot of grassy area between the facility and Dewey Street to set up a farmer's market. You would have to be adjacent or right next to Main Street.
Which would be a wonderful spot as well.
Yes.
Which
The
would be
highway's a little wider there.
Parking is really nice.
Parking is nice.
Sidewalk
I guess
is nice.
that's what I had thought was what you were
Okay.
talking about, because even like out my window, you know, that big grassy area there, that's kind of the, if you look on here, you can see how our building goes. There's a jog there. This, and along here. That's what I thought you were talking about. So that's why I kind of, that's how I put it on the agenda.
And that's kind of the area where, Jeremy, where you improve the sidewalk and that, there would be a lot of area there.
Yep, so I just have a few questions about it then.
Okay.
Again, that's where my assumption was on the east side of the building there, on, you know, between, but I know here in the near future, we're going to be ripping up that front lawn, or a good portion of it. Whether it was even the north side or this one, there's going to be utility work that's going to be getting done in there. The other things that parking is my other concern, especially just between the visitors that would normally be here for the courthouse. And then if we have an uptick of vendors starting to park through town, because there's not a lot of places for them to park already. I couldn't supply power to any of the vendors. And if we were on this, side, I wouldn't want any generators running in the front lawn, just because you got a lot of social workers that border those windows there too, on the phone quite a bit. And I wouldn't want any vehicles on the lawn. But my biggest concern is when the work would start being done over there, you just have a mound of mud and dirt, you know, right through the middle of the grass.
Yes.
Last year, I know this was brought up near the end of the season, and at that point in time, I was, you know, and I'm not saying I'm not on board now. I was more on board at that point, but now we have more things starting to happen around here.
Understandable.
Yes. And I know I see you guys down there at the hardware store. What about, there's that big open lot where the root beer stand is that is not being used at all right now.
We had it there at one time, and there was an incident with somebody, an accident type thing.
Motor vehicle accident.
Right,
Yeah.
and so then that's when we moved it, because of the drive-through there situation. But that's something we could revisit, obviously. The point of having it anywhere in the main part of Whitehall is the access for the seniors, and a lot of folks walk to it.
Yeah.
And I totally understand. We do not, none of our vendors require power. We do not use generators. We dislike them as well. We like to keep it as natural as possible. And we would understand that it would be something that we would revisit in the future, just to bring it to the forefront. And we would understand that no vehicles on the lawn.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, as it sits right now, this is my biggest concern, is that when we start doing stuff in the front of the, you know, then we create it, and especially if you're thinking you have an older clientele, that we're going to have more of a tripping hazard in the grass as the stuff starts to get trenched out.
Yes.
And I don't want you to get stuck coming here, and then all of a sudden it's the Friday that this work is going to happen prior, and then you have to find somewhere else to go.
Understandable. I think what we thought was to bring it to the forefront, understanding that there's a lot of construction going on, so we're thinking of in the future. A year is not a long time. 2 years is not really a long time either. So to think future-wise for the market, because we would just like a nicer place, I think. I'm not saying Johnson's is not a nicer place, but it's not really, it goes up the hill quite a bit. So for a lot of the vendors, it's really not a really good place for them to be. And it's getting bigger, and it takes up a lot more room.
Yeah, and I would say, let's say in 2 years, when let's say when this project is done, that's not going to be our main entrance anymore. We would have quite a bit of grass and parking that I would not be concerned about, because all the parking will be coming in on the opposite side of the building. And I'd be more than happy to have you guys take over from the northern side all the way across down to where Paul's talking about, where my current dumpster is now. That would give you quite a bit of space.
Yes, it would.
And it wouldn't put you in a position of having to move suddenly or inconveniencing you or any of my staff. So
Understandable.
my personal opinion from the maintenance department would be, in 2 years' time when this is done, I'd be more than happy to have you there now, but right now, there's too many variables of
Oh.
putting you in a position of having to try to find somewhere else to go quickly.
Understandable. Thank you.
Any other comments from any of the committee
Yeah,
members?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Tim.
Ms. Schott, I missed the first part of your presentation, but I think I picked up the thread of the conversation here.
Okay.
And I would have to, what I'm hearing here is this the wrong time to do anything like this? This is a once-in-our-lifetime construction project. This whole double city block is going to be all messed up. It's the wrong time to start a farmer's market. Have you thought about the park or lawn north of the hospital, between the hospital and the ball field, adjacent to a paved parking lot? You'd have to approach, I presume the hospital owns that as another area, centrally located. Actually a very pleasant space, pretty large. But I think anything for the next 2 years, trying to do anything around this building for the next 2 years is going to be just a real problem.
Yes, we totally understand that. But I always think ahead of time is better to mention it than waiting till 2 years from now and saying, can we move, or, and we are in the process of looking, we always are looking. In order for a farmer's garden, or a farmer's market, especially in a smaller area, and that's not as well known, to survive, it needs to be accessible and it needs to be a view. And our drive-through, we get a lot of, oh, wow, what's that? So signing would be an issue if we moved it on a back street. We're just not as big enough town, I do not believe, to have a side street market to bring people to as of yet. Now it's getting bigger. I mean, like I say, this is our 5th or 6th year, 7th year, I think, for the Farmers Garden Market. We're not the Whitehall Farmers Market at all anymore. So we would love to have it in one of the parks, but that's not available to us via the city. So when I was talking to Paul, I thought, geez, what a beautiful spot, either here or up front would be a perfect place for a farmer's garden market. Because of drive-through access. It is from 3 to 6:30, so most of everything, I would think, at the courthouse would be done for the day. So I wouldn't think that any of our vendor parking, we can make it a stipulation. You have to park off-street so that people, had parking. But anyway, I just thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay, any questions for Elena? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, yep. Okay, so I guess basically what we're saying is probably not for a couple of years, right?
I understand that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. Okay, now, you want to take over again?
Are we Park Street?
Yep, Park Street, yep.
All right, so Rick, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. So Brittany has brought down the copies, so they're in front of all of the committee members. I guess I'll go over this, Rick, and then maybe if you want to add anything to it, we can handle it that way if that works for you.
Sounds good.
Question here, should this be read, or should we read the whole thing, or any parts of it, or?
I'll let you read it.
I would suggest not reading it.
Okay, and I guess that we probably should get it on the agenda then, and then we can discuss it. Go ahead.
Is this still part of property, or is this part of building oversight?
This is still part of property.
There is no building oversight meeting today. That's excellent to know, isn't it?
Yeah, that certainly is.
Yeah, because the agenda says there is.
We were merged the last couple of months. I didn't-
Well, it says, the agenda says 10 o'clock.
I know.
Yeah, building oversight is actually on the 13th. It was a conflict with the judge, and we had the 13th set up, so
Okay.
we can touch on that.
Okay, we have a motion then to get this on the, or on the floor, and then we'll go from there.
Oh, I'll move to accept the Park Street agreement.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, now, let's discuss it then.
So essentially, the two documents that you have before you become one document. The legal language that's in the, I don't know how many pages there are there, just kind of outlines the agreement between the city and the county. Essentially, the first page identifies what the scope of the agreement is. It's really the closure of Park Street and what's associated with that. The county is going to take care of the design and the cost of relocating the utilities outside of Park Street. The only thing that the city will be reimbursing the county for will be the water main cost from Park Street to Main Street in Hobson. The rest of the expense is going to be within the county's project budget, and we've talked about that since day one. The other thing that is going to be, that's a little bit different than what we shared before is that because you're in the green space there's going to be easements associated with that for if there would ever have to be work done on that utility in the future. But I think we all understand that you need to be able to get to the utility. And the other thing is that the inspection of the work that's going to be in place, the city or SEH on behalf of the city will be there while we're doing the utility work, so that there won't be any questions in regards to the quality of the work or the product that's put into place. I want to let you know that Harwood is working with SEH, which is the engineering firm that's doing the design for the city on the Hobson Street project, to make sure that we're consistent with the specification for not only the utilities, but as well as the base course and the pavement for the street. And that after the approval from the city's representative, whether it's a member of the city's staff or SEH, they will then take ownership and maintenance of that for the future of that utility. So from the county's perspective, you're paying to have them relocated, you're paying to have them put in place. The cost of the water main will be reimbursed to you from the city. It says in here within 45 days of that invoice, and we'll do that on a separate bid form so the city can see that that was priced out separately. And then ultimately, this agreement will be put into place. The only thing that I'm not certain on, and Rick, maybe you can enlighten me on this if you had further discussions with legal counsel from the city. There was a period, and maybe Jeff, you know, there was a waiting period that after the city takes action that we can't do anything in that street. And I thought it was 21 calendar days for this closure or vacation to actually take place. Rick, do you know anything about that, or Jeff, do you know anything about that?
I know there is one, but I don't know.
Okay, I think it's 21 days. So if the city would take action on the 11th and approve it, so the thought is if the committee here approves this agreement today, then the city will put it before their council on Tuesday, and then it will be done. The agreement will be in place, obviously after the appropriate people sign this. But then if that 21 days would then kick in, then we would have to wait before we can actually finalize that. But that shouldn't impact our schedule at all in regards to the closure time. So that's kind of what's before you here. Anything to add, Rick?
Just, yeah, the time period, I believe, is for the process to vacate a public roadway, is my recollection.
Okay.
The terms of the agreement, they went back and forth, so there were some changes from both sides back and forth. So both sides are in agreement with the terms of this. We just need the official approvals from the appropriate governing bodies.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions or comments? Tim?
Rick, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just would like, I think you just gave it, but just to reaffirm, do you have any comments about the agreement from your position as Corporation Counsel? Any comments, questions, concerns, anything? Yo, Rick.
Are you saying, do I have any comments, questions, or concerns?
Right.
Yeah. I don't. Again, after going back and forth regarding the terms of this, it's, I think, what everybody intended in the first place. I agree with Kurt, the easement portion of it, which again is not a big deal. So I do think that all the terms of this are very reasonable. The city's oversight is reasonable, considering they're going to take over the utilities once they are installed and approved. So no, I don't have any concerns regarding the terms of this agreement.
Thank you.
No.
Any other questions or
Rick,
comments?
the question was just raised if it needs to go to full county board, and I'd actually talked to Rick about that. So maybe you just want to explain that, Rick, that the property committee taking action because it's not taking money from the general fund, it's part of the project?
Correct. Yep, I don't believe it needs to go to full county board. I believe the property committee approving this is sufficient.
Okay, any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the Park Street Agreement signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, so Paul and, is it John need to sign it? And then Jeff, you're gonna take care of it at your city council meeting from your end on Tuesday evening. Go ahead.
Jeff, I talked to Ashley. I'm actually going to be out of the state, so she asked if I would be there on the 11th, and obviously I won't be there personally. If you wanted me to call in as a representative on behalf of the county to explain the process, I can do that. If you don't think it's necessary, I guess think about it, and I don't need an answer today, but if you want to shoot me a text before or give me a call, I'd be willing to do that, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Paul, will you keep your copy as the official one with the signatures on it, or?
I was just gonna say, Rick, should we sign 2 of them and then give one to Jeff to take to the city?
I mean, you can sign one, make a copy of it, and then when they return with their signatures, that would be the official one, of course.
Well,
either way, as long as you keep a copy.
They'd want an original also, right? That's why I thought signing 2.
Yeah, that would make sense. So each of us would have a copy.
Original. Okay, we'll take care of it.
Probably good.
Okay. So there is no meeting with the Building Oversight Committee then? They're not planning on being here? Any?
Can I touch on that?
Sure, yes, go ahead.
I think that was just confusion at the last meeting. We talked about, we kind of had a standing Building Oversight Committee.
You said we were just going to put it on just in case.
On the 13th. The Building Oversight Committee is still scheduled to meet again next week on the 13th. Not a lot to bring before the committee. Since I'm going to be out of the state, I'm actually going to have Corey from Venture. He'll be joining virtually. But what I was planning on him doing is just kind of giving kind of a high-level update on drawings and progress that's done there. So there isn't a lot to bring before the committee for decisions. So yeah, I anticipated a short Building Oversight Committee next week. So.
Okay. Rick does that agenda, so. Right, Rick?
What was that?
You do that agenda for Building Oversight next week.
Yes, correct. We got that taken care of.
Okay. Okay, done with that item. Items for our next agenda. Okay, I assume you want to stay on Samuel's Group Venture Building Project update?
If you're not opposed, I think if we could be kind of a standing agenda item, so we
just
give you
in
updates
case, yeah.
monthly, that would be great.
Okay, RT was same, maintenance the same. Request for farmer's market, we won't need that anymore. Do we need anything with the closure of, or regarding closure or not? Will that be all taken care of?
The only thing would be is if the city wouldn't approve it, then we would obviously have an issue on our hands.
So
then it would definitely be an agenda item, but if it's approved, then it's not an issue.
Okay. Do we need to meet with the Building Oversight Committee next month?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? So we can't put that off? Okay, does anybody have anything that,
I think you should put on what we were talking about yesterday, or we were talking about earlier today, the
relocation of the departments within land management, or how would we word it?
Land records.
Land records.
It was
The
detachment
people
was
that
on the-
are reassigning positions in the land
That
management.
may not
department.
happen because I think it works best to stay right where they are.
Relocation of land records department.
Yep, okay, but we probably should talk about it
But at
because,
least get it on the agenda so it can be
yeah, in
talked
case
about.
we do need to come up with it, in case we do decide to do something further with that. Can anyone think of any other agenda?
Would it be better to keep that general on department relocation in case between now and then somebody else has an issue with where they propose to go? We could discuss,
With what ventures?
yeah.
Obviously, that, like, I agree with Dan, that's gonna change if that changes, it's gonna be a domino.
So
effect.
possibly we could put any relocation of any departments.
Department relocation.
Department relocations,
Yeah.
with the emphasis right now, the upfront item being land management, but other items from where you've assigned people may come up. Then we could, it would be on our agenda to discuss. That- Yep, okay, that sounds good. Can anyone think of anything else? Okay, if not, then what about our next meeting? Let's see, the 31st is a Monday. So actually, the first Wednesday, you want to go first Wednesday or second? Because the first Wednesday would be
Today's Thursday.
or excuse me, yes, the first Thursday would be 1, 2, 3.
Dick just said that if you're, the Thursday after exec finance, it would be the 10th.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we've all said, I thought it was always the first Thursday, but, oh no, property's different. I'm thinking of the other ones right
We've moved this
now.
around so much that there's no
Yeah.
precedent anymore.
How does the 10th sound to everyone?
10th works for me.
Fine.
Works for you? Okay, so we'll set our next meeting at June 10th at 9 o'clock. Okay, anything else before we adjourn? Okay, hearing none, I'll adjourn then the property meeting at 10:19.
John,
Thank you everyone for coming.
do you want to sign?